Welcome to the Tactical Business Podcast. I am your host, Wade Skalsky, and today I'm speaking with Vasily Campbell of Kerr Ammo. Vasily, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I know before we began the podcast, I was regaling you with my story of being trapped in your neck of the woods in Texas. So I love that the area of the country that you were in. If I could, I would go to Texas a lot more. But have you always lived in Texas, or kind of how did you end up in that fine state?
No, so I'm actually I'm an Army brat. So father was a retired lieutenant colonel now in the U.S. Army. And so we moved all over the place. Originally, I was born in New York, but yeah, we lived in Germany for 5 years, Virginia. He was working in D.C. I went to school in New York and New Jersey. Found my way around the country, moved through Oklahoma, lived in Austin for a while, also lived in California, and then met my wife, and then we moved here to Texas in 2020, right before the big COVID thing hit. So we were one of the first transplants, from California to Texas.
We did the exact same thing. So I met my wife in Los Angeles. She was working as an actress out there, and then she's from Virginia Beach. So now I'm from Virginia Beach, but we moved here in 2000, like the end, middle 2019. So right before all the nonsense. And I tell you, I don't know if you have the same experience that we did, but I was so glad to be out of California because all my buddies out in California were just telling me it was just crazy out there for what they had to deal with.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't think that this company would have ever gotten off the ground if we had stayed in California. There's just so much red tape, and it is so business unfriendly. The climate out there is just so business unfriendly. Texas is the place to do it. If you want to start a business, have a business, this is it.
Yeah, no, it's one of the reasons why it's a very friendly 2A and state and business friendly state. So let's talk a little bit about sort of your origin story of how you got here. Like, how did the business start? What were you doing in California? What made you start the business when you moved to Texas? Kind of how did you arrive where you're at now?
Sure. So I've been in corporate sales, B2B sales, my regular working career. So out of college, I started as a broker on Wall Street, and then Wall Street really wasn't my thing, which is funny. There's a little segue coming up into this from that experience. But yeah, I did all sorts of corporate sales. I finally ended up in the telecommunications industry doing acquisitions, so basically buying things. And so the product I was selling was money, doing purchasing. So I was convincing people to sell their telecom assets to larger organizations. This was through kind of right during COVID, and a lot of the lockdowns happened and the vaccination, this, that, the other, and it just wasn't my thing anymore. And I said, I really don't want to have a boss. I don't want to report to people. I don't want to be, so really what happened was I was reporting to the president of a company with entire acquisitions department underneath me. And then that was a smaller tower company, which got purchased by a much larger tower company. And so I went from reporting to the president to reporting to my direct report was a VP, who then had 4 more, reports all the way through to the top. So I basically got demoted, took a pay cut, everything like that. And I vowed never to let that happen to me again. And I said, all right, I want to start a business. Thank God we did not go with the restaurant idea. Because I know I know a few people who own them, and it's extremely stressful, and it's it would have been, I don't know that it would have survived, or I would have even enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed this. And the real story behind Kerr Ammo is, one day how I got the idea is I was looking on gunbroker.com for ammunition for myself, and I saw a listing for Ugandan military surplus ammo, and like South African military surplus ammo. And I told myself, I said, there has to be a guy out there middling this transaction, right? There's somebody out there that's middling that transaction. I want to see if I can be that guy. So a la, War Dogs or Lord of War. Those are obviously Hollywood movies. There was no intention of doing anything on the scale or stuff, being arms runner, with the US government or anything like that. It's just, let's see if we can start a business with ammo distribution, with ammunition. I love ammunition. Even to this day, when we get ammunition deliveries, like pallets of ammo, it's like Christmas. Every time we get a delivery, it's like Christmas. So we started a website. I was still working, for this telecom company. And then in my downtime, I would work on the website. We started with 3 products, 223, 9mm, and 7.62 by 3.9. Looking back at the first website that we did, I can't believe people actually bought anything from us, compared to what it is today. But this was during that COVID scare where ammunition was just scarce, and if you had it, people were going to buy it. And so we went around. We also, got the name out doing gun shows. Gun shows was we were doing them, if not every other weekend, like every weekend. It was just exhausting. Props to those guys who buy from us now, who do those gun shows every weekend. I mean, you have to have a ton of energy to do that stuff. So we did that. And then by the time we did our 7th or 8th gun show in December of 21, we just got so busy online, that it didn't make sense to do the gun shows anymore. And some folks, they'd ask us, why don't you send people out to do them? Well, that entails like taking inventory offline, which people, the national audience is a much larger pool of customers. So why even, take inventory, small amounts of inventory to a gun show and even sell it just to make, maybe $1,000, $2,000 a weekend. So that's kind of where we're at. And so it's grown since then. The initial way we got people to the website was that the gun shows, and then really just guerrilla marketing on social media. And you have to be so careful in social media, especially, well, the main ones, the Facebook and Instagram, and well, not Twitter anymore as much, or X as it's known now. But you really you had to be careful how you worded stuff. Reddit was a big one. My MBA actually has a focus in social media and mobile advertising, mobile social media, mobile marketing. So I kind of knew the ins and outs of it. But I honestly, I don't like doing the social media part. So I farmed that part of the business out now. It's not my thing. I don't have any personal profiles or anything like that. So I just, it's strictly for business, and we farm out the management of that to a third party. But yeah, and so that's how it grew. And then eventually we developed enough revenue to have a marketing budget. And so we are now on all the major, ammo listing sites, the Googles of the ammo. And SEO, you definitely have to invest in SEO if you want to be anybody in this business. And so that's a big part of the growth as well. And so now we are, our 3rd warehouse. So we moved from our garage, and we had ammo in the garage first, then it expanded into the living room, then it expanded onto the 2nd floor and the dining room. And it's like, all right, this is too much. So we got our first warehouse. About 6 months later, we expanded into a 2nd warehouse. It was in the same building in Arlington. And then that got too chaotic, and it was too small for us. And so we expanded into our current location in Fort Worth, which is a full-blown like commercial warehouse with HVAC and everything, pallet racks and loading docks and all that good stuff. And so now it's a full-on warehouse operation where we don't take, there's no retail store anymore. It's not open to the public anymore.
Well, that's a great story. There's a lot to unpack there, right? So, and I think it first comes down to, the combination of two things where a lot of people get into, firearms or firearms adjacent or, industry, is that they have a passion for something, and then they combine it with a pre-existing skill set, right? So it's like you had both. You had the love for ammo, and then you also had, the MBA training. Did your time in the telecom field, because that's a pretty highly regulated industry, did your time there, did that help you kind of deal with some of the regulatory issues with ammo or shipping or anything like that, or does not apples to apples?
So as far as ammunition, I knew the basics just from buying it online and reading other companies, terms of service and stuff like that. So that's where I got a lot of the groundwork. I mean, I also hired a lawyer, so we have a lawyer on retainer that helps us with our terms of service, any type of legal stuff that comes up. And so they send out bulletins and everything like that. I think the biggest thing that helped me from my past careers was being able to open accounts with larger companies or larger distributors, where you're not going into an academy or Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that, and buying the ammo there and then reselling it. You're going to a much higher the higher source, whether it's direct to manufacturer, or to the big distributors that have had the accounts where manufacturer accounts aren't available. They just don't give them out to anybody. So that's where my kind of skills came in, is getting those larger accounts or going to the manufacturers, making our case that, hey, we're not just a little shop, right? We distribute to shops. We do 90% of our business is direct to consumer, but the other 10% is gun shops and folks who do gun shows and other resellers.
Yeah, and do you find so? And I know that one thing about these businesses, or any business really, and even outside of firearms, is that where you sort of hit your stride is a little bit different than where you thought you were going to be, right? So you talked about the gun show example, right? In terms of, you're like, oh, we're going to sell gun shows and kind of move up from there. How is your business different now than, say, when you started 4 years ago, in terms of what you thought it would be?
It is a lot bigger, and it grew a lot faster than I had ever imagined it could. Um, I I think it really I chalk that up to the level of service that we provide to our customers, right? If you order anything from us during the week when we're there Monday through Friday before 2 p.m. Central, it goes out the same day. It will be on a UPS truck out the same day. We actually pick up the phones. So forgive me if the phone rings here. I won't answer it. I'll call them back, but we pick up the phones. A lot of online ammo stores they don't have a phone number. They won't ever pick up their phones. You can't get in touch with them. You send them an email. They don't respond back. We will respond back to you ASAP. So we're always there. Customer service has always been paramount. That's like the number one thing that I think has made us successful, because in my opinion, when I started the business, that was the number one thing that was lacking in not with every company, but the general online space. And you'll see it in other websites, reviews. It's, I can't get in touch with them, or I had this problem, nobody's responding, this and that. And I can't stand that. As a consumer myself, I don't like that. Like, be responsive, right? I'm spending money with you. Please, respond to my whatever issue it may be. So I think that's what helped us grow so fast. Being able to find hard to get ammo has helped us with the growth. It's a full-time job just to get it, just to find like the stuff, 2235. When there used to be a shortage, it was kind of, you get anything, everything sells. And now there's no more shortage. Supply is actually exceeding demand. This summer has been particularly tough throughout the industry. There's actually a lot of stores, unfortunately, that have gone out of business because they just don't have the either the financial backing or stability to weather this storm. We'll be fine. But I mean, starting out, I never really wanted to be a retail operation, like have a store. I never wanted to do that. I never really wanted to have to do the gun shows. That wasn't part of the plan. The plan was always to be an online distributor. It's just the size of who we've become and how quickly we've gotten there was the biggest surprise, and how it's exploded. This summer is the first summer where we're actually, we've had, some, I don't want to call it, it's not negative growth. It's just, we're not meeting the expectations. We're not, in terms of revenue, we're not growing, as opposed to last year. So we've had steady growth. In the beginning was the explosive growth, but now we've had steady growth year over year until this summer. And I mean, we can talk about that probably later on.
Yeah, well, no, and I think it's you touched on a really good point about customer service, right? So especially with things like, ammunition and guns, is everyone always has like a very strong opinion. If you go to a gun store and you say, hey, what do I need for home defense? Right. You're going to get like a deep debates on AR versus shotgun versus handgun. Right. And ammo is no different. And so I think that can translate sometimes where people are really passionate about it into like a general crotchiness, which is no, you're just going to buy what we are going to sell you. And I see that a lot in the gun industry, actually. So I think customer service is an edge that you can provide in business. It's not free because it takes effort, but it's free in the sense of it's a mindset, right? And so I think that's a common theme on this podcast is the successful businesses always start with good customer service, which you would think you would just have to should be a given, but it actually isn't in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, we get a lot of feedback from our customers too. And there's probably a ton more out there that just don't give us feedback. And then they tell you, hey, I recommend you guys to all of my buddies. I recommend anybody who asks me about ammo, I tell them, go to Kerr Ammo. They're the best, it's interesting because the way our pricing works and these customers appreciate that is it's extremely transparent, right? So we ship for free anything over $199, no questions asked, right? There's no promos, there's no codes. As soon as you hit $200, $199, your order ships free. We don't charge for overbox or discrete packaging. Other people will charge you $1.99, $2.99, whatever, $3, $7 sometimes, to put a box inside of a box. We don't do that. Everything's built into our price. So there's no hidden fees. If we do charge for shipping and it's below $200, it's a pass-through fee, right? It's what we pay is what you pay. So within Texas, if we're shipping to a commercial address, it's like $9.89 flat.
Well, that's a big one. I can tell you as a customer, right? As a retail customer of ammunition, it's like if you go on a website that is sort of like brings a bunch of different options together and you're searching by price, those aren't real prices because there may be a very low price somewhere, but then you could go to shipping and it's like, oh, it's going to be $36 for shipping, right? And so and there's nothing more annoying than that as a customer. You're like, okay, well, I know you're upping the shipping costs to cover why you're advertising it on the front end. It's so inexpensive. And so I can just tell you as a retail customer is that's a real pain point for people who buy ammo for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we also know what customer we're going after, right? Our target audience are the guys that always buy, that always shoot. You can get away with, inflating shipping costs and, advertising low with the guys that buy one box, one case, and it sits in their closet and they go shooting once a year. Because they just don't know any better and they don't do any research and they're not consistent buyers of ammo. But the guys that shoot a lot, they shoot every weekend, they shoot in clubs, they have clubs, they own clubs. They have we have customers that have like 5, 6 kids and every single one of them shoots. So these guys consume a lot of ammo. So they know, and they know how to buy ammo. And so I know, and so I put myself in my own shoes when I say, what do I want out of a website? Right. This is what I would feel comfortable with, or I would enjoy. I want somebody to pick up my phone call. I want somebody to answer my emails. I don't want any of this BS pricing that some other folks may have, where it's not entirely honest, right? And so that's a big thing, and it goes a really, really long way with the folks that buy a lot of ammo, and those are the people that we want to capture. And so we do, and we even get those messages from those customers that say, "Hey, I don't go anywhere else, and if you guys are the first place I check, and if you don't have it, there's maybe a couple others that I'll buy through, but you're the first website that I go to." And so that keeping that base clientele is what's really helped us grow. And honestly, through marketing, yes, we do marketing spend to acquire new customers, but word of mouth is second to none. You cannot have a better marketing scheme than your customers advertising for you. And so that customer service, yes, it does cost. Is it a lot of work? Yes, it is, but it's worth it. And it's what makes Kerr Ammo Kerr Ammo. It's what makes us successful, and it makes our customers happy. And when they're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, well, and the thing about ammo too, from a business perspective, is that it's continuity. for that type of customer, So, I mean, if you have someone and they routinely shoot and they're trained and they're, ammo is a consumable, right? And so if you can get that core group of customers that are, okay, these guys, they shoot regularly, they buy from us regularly, they don't go anywhere else. That's just continuity in your business. It brings stability, just where you're not trying to always having to sweep in new business that just recycles over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like getting a corporate account, kind of, but it's an individual consumer. It's
right.
People have always, said, oh, well, you should totally do subscriptions. And I'm like, yeah, you can't really do that. You can do like ammo clubs. And we have been considering that. Like you pay $99 a year or whatever, and you get special pricing. And I think eventually we will do that and we will roll that out. We just have to make sure that the financials work with the free shipping and everything else in our overhead. That's a very, very sensitive decision to make financially for a company. I think we need a little bit more growth before we can get there, but I think we'll do that.
I think the challenge with a subscription offer on ammunition is that even though you are quote a regular shooter, it is still discretionary time typically for people, and so you're going to have life is going to impede your ability to go shooting. Like I try to go shooting every Friday, right? Does that happen? No. So if you're on a subscription, then you're getting you may be not doing the right sort of cadence for the use of the ammo. And plus, also too is I think most people that shoot a lot, they shoot a lot of different calibers of gun, right? So it's I'm not going to get a subscription for all of my guns. Do you know what I mean? Like
that's what I was going to allude to. I lost my train of thought there. It's yes, the subscription model will not work with ammo.
I've seen people do it. But I've always had that question about how can that, that's got to be a pain in the ass to do.
They've tried. It works in very, very few cases. Simply there's one thing is the availability. Availability, it's still, if you say I only shoot PMC 5.56 55 grain, that has been tough to get this year, and we haven't always had it. It's certain manufacturers do not produce every single caliber all the time. It doesn't work that way. They have several lines. They only have X amount of machines that they can run. And the list of calibers and different variations of said calibers are not always available. So that inherently will not work. You can only get it when it's made. And so you can do the club subscription, like an annual subscription or a monthly fee where you get, extra discounts, but you can't, unless you want to do it strictly by caliber and you don't care what you shoot, which most people are not like that. They'll know that certain qualities and certain brands are better than others, or this particular brand, the flat nose won't shoot in my Sig Sauer. I have to have round nose. So if you send me flat nose 380, it just won't work. So you can't do it. And there's too many caveats to shooting and ammunition where that type of subscription of just, send me X amount of stuff every month, it just won't work.
How do you work through, and this is the thing about, I always thought that would be tricky about doing an ammo business is the inventory, right? For all these reasons that you're talking about. So that to me would seem to be one of the biggest challenges is, okay, how much inventory are we going to take in? If I see something is available now at a good price, do I stock up on it so that it doesn't become available in the future, but I only have so much space, right? Like, so is there a guiding principle that you have to help you work through those challenges?
The guiding principle. The guiding principle is that is honestly, it's the bulk of the business. And so going back to my, first job, like on Wall Street, managing equities, it's the same thing. Being in the ammo business is like being a hedge fund manager. That's exactly what it is. You have this giant pool of equities, securities, different ammo calibers, different ammo caliber types, and you have to get them all at the right price and sell them all at the right price, and constantly manage that quote unquote portfolio of products that you have. So currently, we have over 400 products in stock. The margins on them, they vary. We try to keep it as low as possible and still maintain, because our business model is volume, right? Not make a ton upfront on one thing. And so it's managing that and watching the market, because market prices are crazy. They change day to day, week to week. They're changing. They're going up and they're going down, and it depends on a variety of things, both, supply, the political environment, regulations, shipping costs, inflation, all that stuff. It all factors into, how much it costs to purchase this ammo and also to sell it, how much it's costing us. And so the key is really managing that portfolio. And so you always have to have a core component of the core FMJ calibers. What is the most in demand? 9mm. 9mm. Everybody has a 9mm. Most shot cartridge in the entire planet. So you always have to have 9mm. 223, 5.56, the number one rifle cartridge in America. Always have to have some of that. 308, gotta have that. 40, not so much. It's kind of fallen off. 45 ACP, big cartridge. So you always have to have more of those than you do of, say, 303 British, something that, is out there. There's a market out there, but you're not buying a pallet of 303 British. You are buying several pallets of 9mm. And then the margins are also going to be different on that. So, but the 9mm is highly, highly competitive. And so you have to make sure that you're getting the right stuff at the right price. So you can give that to your consumer, to your customer, and make sure that you remain competitive in the landscape.
How big is that universe, right? So you have about 400 products. How big is the universe of products that are like conceivably that you could purchase from, right? That you have to kind of like be abreast of, right? So
if we're dealing in strictly, so the amount of products, so I'm actually looking at a product page right now. We have published over time 1,904 products.
Right. So you've got, so you've probably got,
there's probably
5,000
times as many.
Yeah, 10,000 or whatever.
There's no 10. There might be like 20,000. It's probably around 30,000 different SKUs of just ammunition.
But I know you got. It's funny though, because I was like, I always look at not always, but I look at shotgun ammo, right? And so
yeah.
you guys have got Dragon's Breath in 410, right? So I'm like, that's not a volume buy. Like no one's coming to be like, I'm going to buy, 10,000 rounds of Dragon's Breath, right? And so. And then you have like 28 gauge, for example, which I find is interesting for an online store because like that's the type that I would go to like a hunting store for, right? Like so it's interesting. So you do have kind of some of those I don't know if you would consider like a loss leader or what's the thinking behind that? Just because it's fun, like I'm just gonna have fun to get some.
There's a niche product. So the idea behind having stuff like that's more niche, that's not as common or popular is. There's going to be a guy out there or a group of guys out there that are looking for that specific thing. Right. So when they're getting that specific thing, I only need a case of it. And it's $149 for a case of this stuff. I want to get that free shipping. And I also need 9mm. And I probably need to get Joey, some 5.56. And let's all go in together and let's just, get everything this guy has and have a bulk order and ship it out. And so that's where that pulls those people in. It also has to do with search engines. So when people are searching, it's the better your search, the more money you're going to get. Getting the top 5 Google spots or top 10 Google spots is crucial in this business. And so the more you have out there, the more there's a trust index for websites that all the big search engines use. So you build that trust. The more pages you have, the more published stuff you have out there, the longer your pages are out there, the more keywords that you hit on, the more people that click on it, the more people that search for those specific terms, the higher that your results are going to be. And so having that little niche stuff helps tremendously. So 12 gauge Dragon's Breath, interestingly, and don't ask me how it happened, but way, way early on, we started selling that stuff just because I thought it was cool. We started selling it early on.
Anyone that doesn't think the Dragon's Breath 12 gauge is not cool should just stop listening right now because it's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing ever, right? It has very limited utility, but it's still the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, and then they had it in the John Wick 4 movie, which we had no idea.
You could even go before that, and you go back to like Call of Duty, like that's the Call of Duty, So anyways.
And so for some reason we're like top 3. And so we've been top 3 for almost since we started the company and actually started getting listed on, on Google and stuff. And so that's one of those things, and it's our top seller. So we always have to keep inventory of that.
Well, I could nerd out with you on that. I mean, I write for the firearms industry, and so I totally know that sometimes you'll go to your client, you'll be like, okay, for some reason, I don't know why this is, you're ranking on this one thing, so let's do about 10 more articles on this right now, right? And so I think that's a really good, even though we joke around it, and I can talk about Dragon's Breath because I just think it's cool, from a business perspective, you do have to look for those signals, because a lot of people might ignore that. They're like, oh, we're not going to do this because it's no, I'm not going to focus on Dragon's Breath. It's fun, but let's not. But that is actually like a buying signal for some people. And so they'll come in and they'll buy that. And then once the second money is always easier than first money. So it really doesn't matter what they buy first. It's just to get them to buy. And then if someone's also using Dragon's Breath, they're buying other ammo. No one buys Dragon's Breath as their first thing they're going to buy. So I think that's really smart. Like that's a really good approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get that crowd that does like the, I guess, non-traditional or stuff out there. So we have the exploding slugs and everything else. And then that's where you got to worry about legality too, because a lot of people will, we have it posted like, hey, it's illegal in XYZ states, but people still inevitably end up ordering it. We don't have this sophistication right now to completely prevent it product by product. Hopefully at some point we can roll that in, but that's a huge deployment to do that. That's very expensive. But right now we just, we review the orders. We know what's legal and what's not legal. And we'll let the person know, like, hey, you want a substitute or you just want a refund. Right. We put it in there. We'll charge you a 50% restocking fee. We never do that.
Right. Well, yeah. And I think, and that's the other thing too, about the regulation side, where it is a regulated industry, and there's 50 different 50 different states that you have to worry about. Right. So I think you said it right out the bat, like I'm a former lawyer. I was a lawyer for 20 years. And so I was like, even though I don't do it anymore, very limited. I always tell people, it's like everyone hates talking to the lawyer until you need them. So I think that's really smart. So, but yeah, no, it's great. And I'm so happy for your success. I think anytime that anyone's focuses on customer service, anytime anyone focuses on doing it the right way, I think it's more businesses like that. It's a big space, it's a growing space. And so I think there's room enough for everybody. So, but I could geek out all day long talking about a lot of this stuff. But how do people find you? So I know you're on socials. Give us all your social information. And if they want to contact you directly, let's run through that. It's Kerr Ammo, which is KIRAMMO.com.
Yep, that's the place to be. You can Google us, KIR Ammo. Any Facebook, Instagram, X. We are on Gab as well. I think we are looking into the Truth Social thing. We're trying to do the YouTube thing as well, but that's a whole nother story. That's another very, very
good luck with that. Good luck with that. They're demonetized. I'm a big person on X/Twitter. Like that's any gun people that are listening, you got to be in there, because I think that's the last refuge of people who are going to be allowed to do anything business related on there. I think, honestly.
Yeah, and it's changing. So that it used to be just as bad as Facebook and Instagram, but now it's changing for the better.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, what is your handle on Twitter? Do you know?
I believe it is Ammo Kerr.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah. Well, listen, I've really enjoyed talking to you. And if people want to reach you directly, reach out to you, is there an email they can send you an email, or is there on the website? Is there just a contact us form?
So yeah, there's a contact page, and so that'll have it's like support@kerrammo.com, or our phones is 817-818-8640. They do ring. We do pick them up. So phone hours are between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can leave voicemails. We do return phone calls. Best way to get us is email. We check that constantly throughout the day, but we will pick up the phone if you need to talk to somebody. Unlike some other companies, we do take phone orders. So if you're not completely versed or you're not comfortable with the whole online thing, which a lot of people are, you can call us. We'll process your order, and as long as it's placed before 2 p.m., it'll ship out the very same day.
A lot of 1911 in.
Yes. Yep.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you. It's been great to talk. I'd love to have you back on the show in 4 to 6 months. Are you going to SHOT Show this year?
Yes, this year we will be at SHOT Show. No booth, no nothing like that. But we will be there.
Well, I'll be there, and I'll be doing some interviews. So let's do an interview at SHOT Show.
Okay, sounds good. Well, it's nice talking to you.
All right, brother. Great to talk to you. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks.